What's up, guys? Hope you're having a great day, and welcome back to the King Jordan YouTube channel. I genuinely think a large part of the Call of Duty community is about to get a wake-up call. With the Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 ports getting re-released this month, I honestly believe a lot of people are going to realize something they've never really considered before. For years now, I've seen the exact same comments all over YouTube and social media when discussing COD. Modern COD is too sweaty, old COD was so much more fun, and if they just brought back the old CODs, I'd never play anything new ever again. And while I completely understand where those people are coming from, I also think they're setting themselves up for disappointment when it comes for these new ports. Not because BO1 and BO2 aren't incredible games, they absolutely are, but because I don't think those games are actually what people miss, and that's what I want to talk about here today. Now, before I get into this bigger discussion, I want to talk about the ports themselves first, because I'm actually really excited for them. Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 are two of my favorite CODs of all time, and I genuinely hope Activision treats them properly and gives them all the attention and resources they deserve. I really hope they don't just simply copy and paste the old PS3 versions and call it a day. These games deserve way better than that. I want to see all the quality of life features we've gotten used to over the last decade. FOV slider, modern sensitivity settings, the dead zone adjustments, controller customization. Basically, I want these games to feel like the modern releases while preserving everything that made them so special in the first place. And I know some people will probably hear this and say I'm asking for too much. But honestly, am I really? Think about how much hype there is around these games right now. People are arguably more excited for these ports than they are for Modern Warfare 4. If Activision is going to re-release two of the most beloved games in the franchise, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect them to do it properly. Because if they're basically just what the Xbox backwards compatible versions are, but with a higher price tag, I don't even know if I'd buy them right away. I'd probably just keep playing the versions we already have if I really want to play them. But here's the thing, whether these ports are amazing or terrible, that's actually not what I'm worried about. What I'm more interested in is what happens after everyone starts to actually play them and gets their hands on them. For years now, there's been the narrative floating around the community that old COD was just fundamentally different from the modern CODs we get now. And to a certain extent, yeah, that is true. The older games absolutely did do a lot of things better. This includes things like lobbies staying together, progression feeling more rewarding, and not having the constant pressure of things like battle passes, limited time events, and the fear of missing out on certain content within the game. Things like that are completely fair in my opinion. But somewhere along the way, I do believe that people just started convincing themselves that those things were the reason old COD felt so much better. And that's where I strongly disagree. Because when you strip away all those extra systems and additional features that are within Call of Duty, what actually is COD? You spawn into a match, you try to win gunfights, and maybe level up your weapons, earn streaks, and yeah, that's basically been the formula for almost 20 years, or as long as this franchise has existed since COD 4. Sure, the movement changes and the graphics improve, and matchmaking has evolved year to year, but fundamentally, you're still playing the same Call of Duty, and it's been pretty much the same game. And this is why I find it so interesting when people act like loading into BO2 is suddenly going to solve every problem they have with modern COD. Because I honestly, if you're thinking like that, it's not going to end well. And unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be thinking like that and expecting to relive 2012 again, when in reality, we're just going to be playing Black Ops 2 in 2026. And those are two completely different experiences. I think the biggest misconception people have is believing that it was the games themselves that created those memories and made them so fun. Because I actually don't think that's true. Obviously, the games were great, but I think it was everything surrounding them that made them so good. Think back to when BO1 and BO2 were the current COD titles. Most of us were kids or early teenagers. We would get home from school, finish our homework, or let's be honest, we wouldn't even touch that stuff, and just jump online with our friends. And we would play for hours without having to think about anything else in our lives. And at that time, too, gaming itself was just naturally different. Nobody cared about what the meta was or what their KD ratio was. Like, I'm sure some people did, but for the most part, most people were just playing for the fun of it. And the biggest thing was nobody was really watching 20 YouTube videos every day telling them what the best class setup was and what the new meta is and what buffs and patches are coming in. People were just playing and figuring out things on their own. If you saw someone on the other team go crazy with a certain gun, the next game you'd be motivated to try it out and see if you could replicate the same type of gameplay. And it was that self-experimentation that made those years feel so special in the first place. Not because every map was perfect or because the weapons were completely balanced. Like, let's be honest, there are some horrible maps in BO1 and BO2, and guns like the FAMAS and M8 just completely ran those games at the top levels. It was because gaming as a whole occupied a different place in our lives at that time. Back then, gaming was the main thing to do, and it was what we primarily did, versus now when it's something we fit our life around. Nowadays, and I know this is true for myself, we have to fit gaming around work, university, relationships, and just other more important things in our lives. Even if the games themselves are exactly as good as you remember, our lives just simply aren't the same anymore, and that's okay, and honestly, probably for the better. If our lives were exactly the same and we were motivated to do the same things as we were 10, maybe 15 years ago for some people, I don't think that would necessarily be healthy or show any signs of growth as you as an individual. And another important thing that kind of warps our minds when we think about these old games is the fact that nostalgia is just incredibly powerful. When it comes to these games and when we try to remember the best memories we have of them, our brains don't automatically go to every frustrating death we had, all the unfair lobbies, and every rage quit these games had to offer. Because I know damn well I wasn't hopping on every game and dropping a swarm in BO2 or getting blackbirds in every BO1 lobby. There was those fair share lobbies where I'd be the one getting killed by the swarms and always be on the minimap from the other team's blackbird. That's just how these CODs go, and it's the same for every COD. But when most people think about these games, they think about just getting home from school and seeing all the friends online, discovering all the zombies Easter eggs for the first time, and just hearing that multiplayer music hit. And like I said, these memories are real, and these games do have objectively good things about them. But they are attached to just a period of our lives, and just a period in gaming in general that was kind of just like a golden age, and everything just came together to create one fantastic situation. And I think that's the big distinction that a lot of people often miss. Because Call of Duty doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It existed during a time where millions of new players would jump into multiplayer for the very first time with every new COD release, and everyone was learning together. That's why so many people were experimenting with weird classes, and no one exactly knew what was optimal. Versus now, where I'd probably say a large portion of the Call of Duty player base isn't new. I'd say you have a large portion that are players that have been playing the franchise for 10, 15, sometimes even 20 years. And I'll tell you right now, those people are definitely not learning new things. They've been playing the game every year, and those skills only compound year over year. So I'm saying all this to kind of just get to the point where even if Black Ops 2 comes exactly as you remember it, just remember that the people playing it won't be the same. Because I think if you think it's going to be exactly how you remember it, then I think that's where a lot of the disappointment is going to come from. Now, before anyone gets upset and strongly disagrees with what I'm saying in this video, just for the record, I'm not saying Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 1 weren't incredible games. Personally, I still think these are two of the best CODs that were ever made. And honestly, they're both in probably my top 5 greatest CODs of all time. But just because these were the greatest, it doesn't mean that they were necessarily perfect. And I think when you're having these discussions about old CODs, I think there's a lot of nuance like underneath the surface that you really have to dig into versus just saying, oh, these games were great and yeah, the new games suck. Like I mentioned, these old CODs still had a lot of frustrations within them that modern COD also has. Take Black Ops 1 for example. People today complain about overpowered assault rifles. Bro, that FAMAS was literally the best gun probably of any COD, and that thing absolutely melted people. You might not be familiar with the competitive scene, but in that game, it would be 4 FAMASs on one team and 4 FAMASs on the other team. It's literally the only gun people used. And in pubs, you still had things like the Blackbird, which only required like 7 kills, and you couldn't even take it out of the sky. And Ghost was probably the strongest it's ever been in the franchise. Then for BO2, people act like BO7 has invented annoying equipment and field upgrades, which don't get me wrong, the stuff in BO7 and all the AI stuff is definitely really annoying to play against, and it makes cold-blooded almost a crutch to use. But for BO2, it had a lot of these things as well. Things like the shock charges, the C4s that you could instantly detonate, the target finder LSATs, and hunter killer drones, guardians. When people on the other team were using these things, you would just shake your head because you knew how broken they were. And I won't sit here and say, oh, BO2 was just as bad as BO7 when it came to these things. Obviously, BO7 is way worse, but I'm just pointing these things out to kind of show that every COD has their frustrations, and even the ones that we remember to be great, those weren't perfect and as good as we remember them to be. So when these ports come, I think they're supposed to be coming sometime this month, maybe in the next couple days by the time this video drops. I hope Activision really gives them the attention they deserve, because these games do mean a lot, to so many people, including myself. But if you're counting on them to completely restore your love for Call of Duty, I think that is where you'd be setting yourself up for disappointment. Not because the games won't be good, but because they're competing against something no video game could ever really compete with: a memory. Because when people say, I just want COD to feel like the way it did back then, they're often describing not the game, but they're describing their life at that time period. That's not really something Activision or any other gaming developer can really satisfy. Life changes and we grow up and our priorities shift. And sometimes we mistake those changes for the game changing itself, when really it's our relationship with the game that's actually changed. And if you look at the community as a whole back in those days, no one was really asking themselves whether Call of Duty still had that magic. We were just too busy playing it. And ironically, the more we chase that feeling today, the harder it becomes to actually experience that magic again, and even just enjoy the game on a simple level. So, if these ports remind you why you fell in love with Call of Duty in the first place, that's awesome, and I genuinely hope they do. I honestly think that's probably the main role Activision is hoping these games play. However, like I've been repeating throughout this video, just don't expect them to make you feel like you're 12 years old again, because while these games can't come back, those years and the lifestyles we had at that time cannot. And I think that's kind of the whole point of the conversation I've been trying to have here in this video. I don't think Call of Duty has really changed as much as we think, and I think the player's relationship with the game is what's really caused that shift. And that's all I really got here for this video. Thank you so much for listening and watching it all the way to the end. If you guys have any comments or other ideas that you have about these ports and what you think, what your expectations are, or if you're excited or not excited, let me know in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.
Hardpoint contested. Contested hardpoint. Hardpoint identified. Hardpoint is active. Hardpoint locked down. Lead is ours, not theirs. Hardpoint contested. Corporate appreciates your role in today's success.